Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going deep on some really potent self-improvement stuff from Jordan Peterson.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Jordan
Yeah.
Peterson, clinical psychologist,
Yeah.
public intellectual.
Public intellectual powerhouse. That's right.
We're gonna unpack this fascinating YouTube video where he gets down to brass tacks about personal growth.
Yeah, you're right. He doesn't mince words at all.
No.
What I find so fascinating about Peterson is how he brings together psychology and philosophy and personal experience and then turns all that into like a call to action. You know,
Yes.
it's not just theory.
Yeah.
It's about practical improvement in your life.
Absolutely. And in this video, he just throws out all these really intriguing ideas like the power of asking stupid questions,
Yeah.
the necessity of brutal self-honesty,
Yeah.
and becoming articulate can be a weapon.
Yeah. It's almost like linguistic self-defense in a world that's full of all this, information.
Yeah.
Persuasive rhetoric.
Okay, so let's start with the stupid questions. Peterson argues that asking what might seem like a dumb question is actually courageous and a shortcut to learning.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I think it's all about being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And recognizing that, we don't have all the answers.
Mm-hmm.
And most people probably have the same question, but they're just too afraid to ask it.
Right.
And so by asking it, you benefit yourself, but you're also giving everyone else permission to acknowledge, I don't know this.
Oh, that's so true. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a meeting or a lecture and just totally lost, but I'm too embarrassed to raise my hand.
Right.
But then someone else asks the exact question I was looking at. It's such a relief.
Yeah, it's like a collective sigh of relief.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, thank goodness someone asked that.
Yes.
It reminds me of this idea of a growth mindset, where you embrace mistakes and actively seek out knowledge.
Yeah.
It's key to personal development.
Which leads perfectly into Peterson's next point, brutal self-honesty.
Yes.
He suggests we sit down and ask ourselves, what's one thing I'm doing wrong that I could fix? I mean, That's pretty intense. It's like holding up a mirror to your own flaws.
Right, and it's not always comfortable.
Yeah.
But recognizing those flaws is the first step toward changing them.
Yeah.
It's like, think about it, if you're building a house, you got to make sure the foundation is solid, otherwise the whole thing's compromised.
Right.
Self-awareness, even the parts that you don't like.
Yeah.
That's the foundation for growth.
That makes me wonder if that's where things like cognitive biases come into play.
Mm-hmm.
Are there these psychological mechanisms that prevent us from being truly self-aware?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
I mean, there are definitely biases at play.
Yeah.
Like confirmation bias.
Yeah.
Where you're only looking for information that supports what you already believe.
Right.
Even if it's wrong.
Right.
Or self-serving bias where you take credit for all the good stuff and then you blame all the bad stuff on other things.
Oh, yeah.
Or other people. So
it's like we're constantly protecting our egos, even at the expense of personal growth.
exactly. And Peterson is saying, no, you got to get past those defenses and confront the truth about yourself, even if it's hard.
Okay, now this next point is where things get a little controversial.
Yeah.
Peterson warns against speaking just to impress others.
Yeah.
He says when we do that, we're essentially being possessed by the spirit of manipulation.
I think it's a warning against inauthenticity.
Okay.
It's like if you're constantly projecting this image that isn't really you end up living this hollow life.
Yeah.
Unfulfilling.
It's like we're sacrificing genuine connection for the sake of external validation.
Exactly. And that can create a lot of internal conflict and stress.
Yeah.
Psychologists call it cognitive dissonance.
Mm-hmm.
Like when your actions don't match your beliefs, it just creates this psychological discomfort.
It's exhausting to live a lie.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And Peterson's urging us to break free from that and speak our truth, even if it's not popular.
Okay, so speaking of truth, he then talks about reading as a shortcut to experience.
Yes.
I love this point.
It's great.
He emphasizes how reading, especially by great thinkers, allows us to learn from other people's experiences without having to go through them ourselves.
And it's not just about accumulating knowledge.
Okay.
I think he's talking about wisdom.
Yes.
Think about the books that have really affected you.
Yeah.
They probably weren't just entertaining. They challenged you in some way.
He did.
They broadened your perspective.
Yeah.
Maybe even helped you get through something.
Yeah, he mentioned about Face by Colonel David Hackworth.
Yes.
And The Neuropsychology of Anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about how those books, even though they're about very different things,
Yeah.
push him to think differently and expand his understanding.
Yeah, and that's the power he's talking about.
Yeah.
It's like having a conversation with the greatest minds in history.
Mm-hmm.
You get to access their wisdom, their experience, without having to live through their struggles.
It's like a cheat code for personal growth.
Exactly, and it all goes back to the idea of becoming dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
the more you read, the more you know, the better equipped you are to deal with life,
Yeah.
to think critically, to make better decisions.
You know, I never thought about it that way, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
The more we know, the more empowered we are to challenge the way things are, to question assumptions and make real change.
Exactly. And that can be dangerous,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
especially to people who want to keep you in the dark.
So this next part really surprised me. Peterson reveals that Shakespeare had a huge impact on him.
Oh, that's interesting.
I know.
Yeah, he doesn't really dive into it here, but he's talked about it at other places, about how wrestling with Shakespeare's language, it's so complex,
Right.
forced him to really understand words,
Yeah.
their nuances.
Like he had to level up his language skills.
He did.
Just to understand what Shakespeare was saying.
Right, and that's what I find so fascinating about Peterson's take on language. He's not just interested in the surface meaning of words.
Yeah.
He wants to know where they came from,
Okay.
their history, how they've changed over time.
What?
He sees language as this window into our minds,
Yeah.
a reflection of like our deepest thoughts and desires.
And then that deeper understanding of language becomes a tool, a weapon for navigating the world.
Which brings us to his point about articulation being like a weapon.
Yeah, he really emphasizes the importance of becoming articulate
Yeah.
in writing and speaking. And you even said this earlier, it's like linguistic self-defense.
Yeah, because it allows you to think clearly, argue better, and inspire others with your vision.
Yeah.
It's about having the power to express yourself, make your voice heard, and make a difference.
That's a powerful idea. It's not just about sounding smart. It's about using language to change reality.
Exactly, to make things happen.
To make things happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, think about figures like Martin Luther King Jr. or Nelson Mandela.
Yeah,
Their mastery of language allowed them to paint this picture of a better world and inspire millions to join them.
it's true.
It makes you realize how much power there is in being able to say what you think and what you believe.
Yeah, and it's not just about power over other people. It's about power over your own mind, too.
Okay.
Peterson talks about writing, in particular, forces you to think things through, confront inconsistencies in your own thinking,
Right.
and refine your ideas.
So it's not just about persuading other people. It's also about persuading yourself, clarifying your own thinking and making sure your actions align with your values.
Exactly, and that clarity is so essential for dealing with life and making the right decisions.
Okay. I feel like we've already talked about so much, but there's still more to unpack.
There is.
Peterson goes on to talk about meaning the role of struggle in a fulfilling life and even how our daily routine affects our well-being.
Our everyday habits.
Yeah,
You ready to keep going?
absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, great.
Yeah. We've been talking about self-honesty and, asking tough questions and mastering language as tools for personal growth.
Right.
But you could easily think that all that leads to this easy, idyllic life. But Peterson's philosophy is different. Yeah, it kind of seems counterintuitive. Don't we all secretly hope that if we just work hard enough, eventually we can relax and enjoy a life free from struggle?
That's exactly the myth that Peterson dismantles.
Okay.
He says, striving towards meaningful goals, even goals that we might never achieve. That's what gives life meaning and purpose.
So it's more about the journey than the destination.
Exactly. It's the pursuit of the goals, the challenges you overcome, the lessons you learn along the way. That's where you grow and find fulfillment.
It reminds me of that myth of Sisyphus, eternally pushing the boulder uphill.
Right.
It sounds a bit bleak at first, but I'm starting to see what Peterson's getting at.
Yeah. It's not about the futility of the task itself.
Okay.
It's about the inherent value of striving. And the interesting thing is how he connects this to positive emotions.
Okay.
He argues that many positive emotions, especially enthusiasm, come from having a goal.
So if we're not working towards something meaningful, we're missing out on what makes life feel good.
That's what he's saying, and that's why he advocates for goals that are, sort of transcendent. Always a little out of reach, so you have to keep striving and growing.
So we never really arrive.
Right.
But we're always moving forward, evolving and experiencing those positive emotions along the way.
It's a state of becoming.
Becoming okay.
Yeah.
And it's through this process of striving, confronting challenges, pushing our boundaries, that we become more competent, more resilient.
Yeah, more dangerous, as Peterson puts it.
Danger, there's that word again. We talked about it with linguistic self-defense, but it seems to have a bigger meaning here.
Yeah, you're right. It's not just about being articulate.
Okay.
It's about becoming someone who can really make a difference.
So it's not about aggression or dominance. It's about having the courage to go after what matters to you.
Right.
To say what you believe and try to make a positive impact.
Exactly. It's about owning your life, your actions, taking responsibility and using it to create something good.
But what if you don't have it all figured out? Peterson talks about how finding your path can be messy.
Oh yeah, he does. He actually encourages making bad plans just to get started.
Bad plans. That sounds kind of reckless.
He doesn't want you to be reckless, but he wants action, not inaction.
Okay.
He says something like, make the best plan you can, but don't be afraid to change it. Start doing it, and you'll figure out what's wrong and how to fix it.
I love that it's so much better to actually do something and learn from mistakes
Right.
than to get stuck in indecision.
Exactly. And he also cautions against comparing yourself to others,
Oh, that's so hard.
especially with social media.
Yeah.
It's easy to look at everyone's best moments and feel bad.
It can be really discouraging when you only see the carefully crafted version of someone online.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But Peterson reminds us that the only comparison that matters is with who you were yesterday.
So focus on your own progress, your growth.
Yeah.
Celebrate the small wins.
Exactly. And speaking of small wins, he makes a point about daily routines.
Okay.
You know, the little things. He says, fix the things you do every day because they really add up.
It's easy to overlook those things.
Right.
But they really do add up. If we can make those routines better, even in little ways,
Yeah.
it could improve our well-being.
He's not saying obsess over every little thing, but be aware of your habits.
Right.
How do they fit with your goals and your values?
So it's not just about the big goals, but also about those small habits that shape our lives.
Right. And finding ways to make those habits work for you,
Yes.
support your goals, and make your life better.
Now, Peterson's message is really starting to hit home.
Yeah.
He wants us to rethink what a good life is all about.
He's saying embrace the struggle. Find meaning in what matters to you.
Yeah.
And find value in the journey itself, even when it's hard.
It's a powerful message, and I think it speaks to a lot of people looking for meaning in this crazy world.
It's a call to action,
Yes.
an invitation to take control and create the life you want, not by running from challenges, but by going after them.
We've talked a lot about striving for meaningful goals, but life isn't always a straight lineup. I'm curious what Peterson says about setbacks and temptations. You know, the things that get in the way of self-improvement.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Peterson doesn't pretend that the negative parts of human nature don't exist.
All right.
The things that can derail us, the pitfalls to avoid.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Let's go back to the video and see what else we can find. So we were talking about how Peterson's philosophy is all about like embracing struggle and challenges as part of a meaningful life.
Right.
But he also says there will be setbacks,
Uh-huh.
moments of doubt, even temptations to like stray from the path.
Yeah, he doesn't pretend it's going to be easy. You know,
Right.
there will be times when you just want to take the easy way out,
Mm-hmm.
even if it means going against what you really believe in.
And he uses that analogy of Pleasure Island from Pinocchio,
Right, yeah.
where the boys can do whatever they want,
Right.
but they turn into donkeys.
It's a great image of how chasing instant gratification, you know, can actually make you less free in the long run.
Less human almost.
Yeah, it's like trading real fulfillment for just a quick hit of pleasure.
So how do we avoid that trap?
Well,
How do we stay on track when there are so many distractions and temptations?
Peterson really emphasizes discipline and self-control.
Okay.
He says, true freedom isn't about doing whatever you want all the time.
Right.
It's about having the power to choose what you do based on what you believe in.
I like that because discipline often gets a bad rap.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
like it's restrictive.
Right.
But Peterson's saying it's actually the key to more freedom.
He says almost every meaningful freedom you experience in life comes from discipline.
Wow.
By setting boundaries and creating good habits,
Yeah.
you create space to achieve your goals and live a better life.
So it's about making tough choices even when you don't want to and resisting that urge for instant gratification.
Resisting those impulses that pull you off.
Of course, yeah. And developing the willpower to stay focused on what really matters. And this all goes back to Peterson's emphasis on self-awareness and honesty.
Right.
He talks about realizing when you're doing things that are taking you down the wrong path.
Recognizing when you're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah. You've given us so much to think about today.
It's been great talking about this.
It's clear that Peterson's ideas, even though they can be tough sometimes, offer a real way to navigate life and create a life that's meaningful.